Great to see everybody. The Hold on, man. There we go. Great to see everybody. Scout Team Players of the Week this week are Tanner Allen and Danilo Gubernick. I think I said that correct. But Danilo, there's he's got a tough last name to say. I want to start off by thanking Patrick Mahomes for being here. Man, it was awesome to see him and his wife. I got to at least give him a hug before he went up on stage when we were out on the field. But, man, I just can't thank him enough. I thought the uniforms were actually incredible, especially in a day game. They look really, really awesome. I know our recruits loved them. So proud of Saturday's environment, man. I went back and watched the TV copy and just coming in from commercials, what the stadium looked like, striped out, the towels. I'm just telling you, man, I'm such a huge fan of the towels, especially on, you're sitting there looking at the east side, and whenever that defense goes on the field, I mean, I think it looks very intimidating, but so proud of our fans and our students. That was a lot of fun to be a part of. Going back and watching our film, a guy that, I didn't talk a lot about Saturday that I thought was just incredibly dominant, tackled so well, was Cole Wisniewski. I mean, he was just an animal. After you watch it just over and over and over, how many times he ended up coming down in the box, making plays. And it was really impressive. I got to take my hat off to Dr. Phi and Mike Ramirez because Cole was sick all day Friday. He didn't go to the movies with us on Friday night. We gave him some medication to help him sleep. He had a stomach bug, woke up the next day. We gave him an IV. And so it was kind of like his flu game, I guess, because, man, he played lights out. I told him whenever he had to eat, if that's what messed him up, then we need to replay it again this Friday and Saturday. So thanks a lot to Dr. Phi and to Mike and his crew. But, man, I just wanted to say something about Cole. The big deal that we talked about yesterday is getting to what's next. I even said, there's different times, and I've been a part of this at different places, like you're almost waiting, okay, you have such a huge game and the momentum and the emotional is so high, do you have a letdown? And my job is to make sure that we don't have a letdown. I think I have great leaders in that locker room that will help me do that. We will have a great practice plan and game plan for UCF. They're playing, like, again, y'all saw it, they should have beat Houston. So they're playing really well. They've got some good running backs. They've got a defense that, if you look at the numbers, one of the top. I think they're number 3 or number 4 in the conference defensively. Probably the best 2 edge rushers that we faced all year long. 51 and 9, and then, they're deep in the D-line. And so it's going to be a great game. I'm glad it's at home. I'm glad it's a 2:30 kick. Just encourage everybody. I missed the tents, but don't put any tents up. I'm sorry, Mike Ryan. I missed that. So we're not going to do that again this week, but what we are going to do is make sure that we have a really hostile environment in Jones AT&T. Y'all make such a big difference. So show up, be loud, and get ready to go. It is senior night, and we have some great seniors that will play their last game in this stadium. You start thinking about it, J-Rod, Baron Morton, and some of the new guys, Lee Hunter, just guys that have done a lot for this university in a long period of time and a short period of time. So can't wait to get there. We've got a big week in front of us. We will be ready to go. With that.
Defense creates success for Texas Tech's teams. During Leach's time, his teams were 33-2 when limiting opponents to 14 points or less. Your team are 16-0 when limiting teams to 20 points or less. How does UCF challenge your defense?
Speed. They've got a lot of speed. They've got big playmakers. Got a legit tight end. Number 0 has been really impressive. So we've got to do a good job. It all goes back to this, and we're undefeated whenever we take the ball away, and we've got the one loss whenever we knock it out, but we don't get it. And so it's going to go back to, I think we're a plus 11 right now on the year for turnover margin. We've got to go take the ball away and get the ball back to our offense. If we do that, then we'll limit their explosives. we'll limit their touches, and our guys play off of it, the momentum. I mean, that's part of turnovers. When you start generating a lot of turnovers, I think we have 25 if you count our block kicks and everything for the year. When you start generating a lot of turnovers, they become addicting. The defense, plays off of it, and it creates a lot of momentum for your team.
What percentage of the overall potential of this team have we seen so far this year?
I still think we have more. It's stuff like self-inflicted wounds that we talk about. As penalty-wise, we're much better than what we were. We're not last in the conference anymore, but we're much better than what we were. But it's showing up. We had a play the other day. We have 2 receivers in motion, and it ended up being a big play that gets called back, stuff like that. And then, hopefully we can continue to get healthy and stay healthy, and I think that will help us, play at a higher level.
Plenty has been mentioned about the millions invested in players, but can you discuss the coaches you've invested in, especially the ones that you've been here since day one, Kenny, CJ, Sarnell, and Josh?
Yeah, I really do. I think we've got a great coaching staff. First start with the new guys. I thought Blanchard and I talked about this, and we did the same thing with all the analytics and run the numbers of like the best coordinators out there at the time. And we felt like before the portal ever opened up that we had won the offseason with getting Schill and getting Mack. They were huge additions, and they fit right in. Their families are extremely happy in Lubbock, Texas, and that's fun to see. I love that. But you turn around, I think Josh Cochran is one of the best run game coordinators / tight end coaches in the country. His guys played at extremely high level. I feel the same way with CJ. You look at what he's done, because what you can say is like, okay, well, David Bailey's doing this, and we brought him in. Or you can say, hey, Romello Heights doing this. Or you can even go back to Tyree Wilson. These guys are playing their best football that they've ever played in their career under CJIU. And you can say the same thing about a lot of these positions. So we've got a really good coaching staff, and, man, I'm proud of the work that they're doing.
Coach, can you give us a kind of an update and a plan for Barron this week?
Yeah, we practiced yesterday with him, like 2 weeks ago, and he hates it, so he's just going to have to hate it. But 2 weeks ago, he was in a boot and really wanted to keep him in a boot, and he didn't want to, and because the boot bothers him a little bit too, but take a pressure off his leg. He was in a boot yesterday throwing. We're going to have, because we don't practice till tomorrow afternoon, we're going to have a practice plan, and it's kind of been the same plan the last couple weeks. We don't put him in trade periods. He does the scout periods and all the throws in 7-on-7. We'll probably limit some of that tomorrow. We'll definitely limit movement all week to get him going, on Friday. Or our Fast Friday would be really the aiming point where he really amps up and gets going. He feels good. He was in there this morning. That's a great thing. We've got we're an old team, and those guys understand they got to come in and, take care of their bodies and everything. And so feel good about where he's at. It's not worse than, hadn't gotten any worse. It's just, it's one of those deals that you're dealing with some soreness, but there's some guys, that will turn around. Will Jados, he's a tough guy. He's dealing with some soreness. Lee Hunter is dealing with some soreness. These guys have been dealing with football soreness for the last few weeks. It's funny. I don't know who I was talking to Friday night. It was one of the defensive guys, because we were going to the movies, and I ride the defensive bus to the movies, and they were talking about what a weird bye week, that's right before the very last game. And I think it's going to come at the right time, to really get us going. We still got to, focus on what we got to do this week without a doubt, but the bye week's going to come at a good time.
Coach, the receivers have made some really tough catches, but you even mentioned it after the game, some drops, and that's been a consistent thing. What do you think has been the cause of that, and how can you fix that in the middle of the season?
I think it's a mixture. The concentration level has got to continue to go up, and We actually, I haven't talked to the offensive staff, but Blanchard and I were talking, you got to create some competition, and, it's never a bad thing to pull somebody off the field and put somebody else in there if you're not getting the job done, and Caleb's probably been the most consistent. Coy's been really consistent, but it showed up, 2 weeks ago. I know Coy would love to have that catch back that he had a drop, early in the game. Reggie had one this week. Some of the drops you gotta take the drops like legitimate drops. Like TC has a ball hit his hands that's thrown behind him, so it's also the quarterback. You gotta have good ball placement. You can't. But if it's a legitimate, hey, hit you in the hands, you've got to catch that ball. And some of it is there's going to have to be some other guys to put some pressure on them, to step up. It can't be that you're okay with it. And it's not even that. It's just being okay with anything, with the penalties or anything like that.
You mentioned Blanche on Twitter. He said Lee wasn't getting enough credit. Lee Hunter. What does he mean to this team, both on and off the field?
He's absolutely. I'm so proud of him. Again, here's a guy that's having his best year and the most sacks he's had. I think he's the most dominant interior defensive lineman in the country, and what he's done for us is when we lost Skyler, he has really stepped up vocally. That's where I think he's made such a big difference. He's really stepped up vocally, and, man, he's having a good time. And I know he's going to be geeked up for this week because he's playing some of his buddies. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have to keep that under control because he's a guy that likes to talk throughout the play, and it's always fun, but I know he's going to be fired up for that game.
Coach, 4 years ago, when you took this job, one of the first things that you said at your press conference was that you wanted to turn the Jones into one of the best atmospheres in the Big 12 and one of the best in the country. This season, your team is 6-0 at home, and you've seen the atmospheres. What has it kind of been like for you to see that come to fruition this year?
Yeah, it's, so I said it a couple weeks ago. Cody and my buddy Judd Hardage, they both said going into the Kansas game, man, you haven't seen anything yet. Whenever Kenny says it all the time too. Don't let the Red Raiders get hot. Don't let us get fired up about our teams. And I thought the Kansas game was great, man. But for 11 o'clock kick, man, I don't know where you can find a better environment than what you had at Saturday in Jones AT&T, because it was extremely loud. I thought the fans stayed the entire time. Both sides, were up on their feet whenever the defense took the field, the west side and the east side, and it's a tough place to play. It really is, and I think it even got louder. I mean, you had 2 false starts on BYU that I thought was directly related to our fans, and we got to continue that. There's very few stadiums in the Big 12 that you can measure our stadium with. I mean, you got to go to Utah, probably BYU. K-State has a great fan base as far as their stadium, but just the volume in the stadium, how loud it is. Utah and BYU are comparable. But I thought it was a great atmosphere on Saturday. It's a lot of fun. It makes a big difference. If you want to win at a high level, you got to win all your games at home. And we got one more, and it's senior night. We got to go out on the right note.
And then you touched on your seniors, but how much does it mean to you personally to have a lot of these guys stick by you and stick by the plan that you've had for them over these years, and see this season come together for them? Yeah,
man, it's really awesome, and it's not just seeing the plan come together, but how much they love this place, and these guys are walking away with their college degree. There's a number of them that are going to play in the NFL, but it's pretty awesome. They're walking away with their college degree. We'll have a couple of them that will walk on Saturday that will graduate in December. There's a couple of them that will walk, that we're hoping to get back from the standpoint of if, the injunction happens in December for the 5 for 5. because you got a couple guys that played as true freshmen, Reggie Virgil and Skylar Gill Howard. It'd be awesome to get those two guys back. But it's really cool, to see Baron Morton, who started and finished as a Red Raider, that Jacob Rodriguez, has been here my 4 years and has his degree from Texas Tech. Davion Carter has been here for 2 years, but he's graduated from Texas Tech. I mean, these guys, it goes back to what Kirby challenges all coaches, that no matter how long they're here, that they relate their college time to Lubbock, Texas, and Texas Tech.
What did you see on the 4 first-half sacks on Morton in terms of maybe him holding onto the ball a little too long?
Yeah, there's 2 of them that was on him, and it wasn't holding on the ball too long, but there was 2 that there was no pressure, and he escaped in pressure. So what starts happening, and this happens, we do the same thing with quarterbacks. If you know that a quarterback is going to have a certain way that he's going to move, then we're going to target that way, and almost push him into the pressure, and he'll be the first one to tell you. I mean, there's 2 of the 4 sacks that were directly on him, and you just got to sometimes I think, if you go back over the years and you look at different quarterbacks, I mean, I think Patrick would tell you that, you're extending plays and you can extend plays and you almost have to extend plays. You don't have to extend plays with this team. You got to play the next snap. Get the ball out of your hand. Don't get hit, because we got a defense. You don't have to put yourself in that harm's way, because we're going to get the ball back to you. And so we've talked a lot about that. It's a hard habit to break for every quarterback. It's not Barron. You can go to every single quarterback. There was one in the NFL yesterday that I think this is the 4th time he's been in concussion protocol, and he's getting hit a lot. And some of those hits are happening because of him, and so it's just the nature of that position. You're usually the alpha. You've made plays all your life. You're used to making those plays, and you just got to continue to grow. That's one of the things that Barron's going to continue to grow, to get better at, to get the ball out of his hand. But it's not even getting the ball out of his hand on time. Just like sometimes the play's dead, throw the ball away.
He admitted that drifting is a bad habit of his, but
Yeah.
being a senior quarterback, what do you need to do over these next 2 games to break that?
Just continue to work on it and get him to understand, because some of that drifting, I think it was coming out of the south end zone, he drifted to his right. Hey, that play's dead. Just get the ball out. You don't have to continue to try to make a play.
He said it himself. He's one of the hardest people he'll ever be on himself. What have you seen mentally from him? It seemed like he was a little beaten up on himself after the game.
Yeah, I think he expects so much from himself, that was what I was proud of him. Was the first time we played in front of Pat here, we played absolutely horrific. I coached one of the worst games I've ever coached, and Barron played one of the worst games he's ever played. We improved the second time that Pat was here at home this week, because, he was at the Kansas game our second year, and I thought Barron played really well and came back, threw a great pass at the end of the game to get us in field goal range. I think, I think he's so hard on himself after Saturday, because it was such a big game. He's a perfectionist. He understands. And he takes a lot of responsibility. His comment to me was, he sent me a text because I was just checking on him, and he was like, I'm sorry that the offense didn't play better. So he takes so much ownership as the offense as a whole versus, I'm sorry, I didn't play better, because, he understands. He's played a lot of football. He understands, just clean operations, and we didn't have a clean operation at times on Saturday.
Coach, to say last week was a crescendo all week long with all of the extracurricular stuff going on. You have game day in town, college football playoff ranking for the first time, massive game, top 10 matchup, get a win, tents outside, everything going crazy. How do you keep that excitement this week with a team that's coming in a 1-5 record in Big 12 play?
you ride with Jacob Rodriguez, as he said to me in the locker room. Jacob was probably the first or second player in there, and I go over there and give him a hug, and he goes, Coach, this wasn't our goal other than to go 1-0. It wasn't about beating BYU. It was about what we have in front of us. And he said it to the team yesterday in the weight room whenever they got their lift before our team meeting. You focus on that. It's that's why you preach and preach and preach that 1-0 and what's next, and you hope that holds up. I do think it being senior day will help because there'll be some emotions there that will be exciting. But these guys, I told them yesterday, I said, guys, I'm not going to tell you not to watch Tuesday night to see. I'm going to watch Tuesday night. I'm going to see where we're ranked. I'm going to see who's ranked ahead of us. I'm going to see who's ranked behind us. I'm going to root like hell for the Big 12. I think it's a conference to get multiple teams in the playoffs, as long as we all take care of business. And so I know they're going to watch that, and we'll find ways to push the right buttons to use that.
And what about the 1-5 conference record from UCF is deceiving from what you've seen?
Well, one, I think they're giving up like 320 yards a game defensively, and that's one of the top defenses in the Big 12. They've played some guys really, like if you look at all their games, they've all been close except for the Baylor game. I haven't got to watch that game yet, so I don't know. It's 30-3, so I don't know exactly what happened. They've dealt with some injuries. They're football banged up, but they've dealt with some quarterback injuries and had multiple quarterbacks play kind of like us. I will tell you this, like they have guys that when you look at the numbers, part of our scouting analytics is how fast these guys run on a continuous basis of guys that have hit 21 miles per hour, or how many plays they've played over 20 miles per hour, or how many plays they've played over 15 miles per hour. They got a lot of speed on that team. I think, taking over that job, Scott's done a good job, and he'll have them geeked up and ready to go. And then if you're sitting there looking like, if I'm there, I'm talking about wherever we end up, if we're 8th or 7th or whatever we are, that they have an opportunity to go knock us, ruin our season and knock us off. So they'll be fired up for that.
Go ahead, Don. Joey, on Hunter Zambrano, looking at his bio, started his college career in 2020, so his COVID year. Played 3, basically full seasons. Last year played only 2 games, so redshirt year. Mm-hmm. So are y'all going to try to obtain a medical for him?
We feel like it's a slam dunk, and we'll have him back for next year. Yeah.
Okay. That'll be done though after the season.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. UCF, back on them for a moment. Curious. The reporting out of Orlando says they were down to Jaden Nixon as their only healthy running back the other night after Miles Montgomery went out. I was curious, do you have any background with Jaden Nixon since he is a Frisco Lone Star kid, or know much about him?
He's really athletic, fast. I can't remember how hard we recruited him whenever he came out. I know we recruited him, and it'd be interesting. I know they're I always wait till Wednesday whenever the Big 12. We actually, whenever we had our staff meeting this morning, we said, UCF is a team that has done what we feel like we've done in being pretty upfront as far as what we put out on the injury report on Wednesday nights, and so we'll have an idea. I mean, they had some guys banged up. They're 22, their running back went out, didn't come back in the game. I think 51, who's a dude. I mean, he's a dude. Pass rush wise, I think he has 7 sacks on the year. I don't know if he finished that game. I think their nickel didn't finish that game, and so. But that doesn't mean they don't play against us. They're like us, and you look around the country, everybody's kind of like that. You're banged up.
And they also swapped out their quarterback before their final series the other night and went with the runner more than the starter. What does that do in terms of your defensive preparation?
I think, you got to prepare for both of them. The good thing is we faced running quarterbacks, really the last few weeks, and so we'll prepare like that. It'd be interesting, and it'd be interesting who they start. I mean, they had a receiver open, to win the game against Houston, and the Houston DB made a good play on a little bit of a late ball, for them to lose that game. But we'll have to prepare for both of them. And a little bit of the good thing is the guy that they started, he's also a runner, so it's not like we're not preparing for a mobile quarterback.
Also, looking at it, Cash Cleveland didn't play the other day. Has still played in only 3 games, so he's now in a situation where he can redshirt by playing only one of the last 2. Are y'all thinking that?
No, I mean he could without a doubt. I'm just telling y'all, like if I'm not saying it's going to happen now. I do think the injunction's got a really good chance to pass on December 15th. They've got to decide it, but at some point in the next year or before he's out, if we don't go 5 for 5, that's the most slam dunk common sense thing that you can possibly have. The only reason I really think it hasn't happened is you've got lawsuits out there, and so they're already involved in these lawsuits, so they're going to ride the lawsuits out to see what happens. But when you just look at 5 for 5, you've got all these kids transferring, so you want 5 years to help them graduate from college. I know it's crazy that we're actually still talking about education, and this is higher education, but it's important for us at Texas Tech, and like Skylar Gill-Howard and Reggie, they'll graduate in the spring. But if they don't get their year back, they're going to be training for the combine. So are they really worried about class? So when are they going to graduate? So that's one. And then 2, the way we look at it too is if the roster goes to 105, and let's say you have 4 to 5 freshman offensive linemen that are probably not ready to play, and then you talk about guys getting hurt and injured for the season, you really need to be able to play a freshman that's able to play and not worry about, his years and stuff like that. Luckily, we've got some really good young guys that trust in what we're doing. Leighton Stone's one of them, even though he rolled his ankle the other day and didn't play. Brock is one of them. Tristan Gentry hadn't got there, but when he plays, he's going to be one of them. Bryson Jones is one of them. They know and trust that we really believe the 5 for 5 is going to happen. And, if they're here, we'll do it. But if they're somewhere else, somebody's probably going to sue to make sure they get an extra eligibility year. I mean, at some point they're going to just, hey, this is what's common sense. Let's do it. So we'll see.
You mentioned the 105 a moment ago. Scott Frost also talked about the 105 the other night after the game, saying their numbers were getting low because of the 105.
Yeah.
Y'all have some, I guess, DSAs, right, to be above the 105?
We have one. But whenever Q got hurt, we were able to add Loic, as a scout team guy and a great body for practice. I mean, because we grandfathered some guys in, we're like 109. We've been really fortunate. It doesn't seem like it at times because we've lost some guys for the year and everything. But as far as like health-wise, travel-wise, we're still having trouble whenever we travel away. Who are the 74 that go because we are healthy enough? I'm going to knock on wood for that for sure because we got to stay healthy because we're planning on playing more than 12, 13, 14, ever how many games it takes to get to where we want to get.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Great seeing y'all. And it was awesome. We're seeing Now You See Me, Now You Don't, which I've seen the first 2. If you hadn't watched the first 2, it's going to be really good.
Going. How you doing, Coach Shane? Great.
Coach, how do you handle wide receivers outside of 7 who don't have a lot of catches this year?
How do we handle them?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have a lot of film to.
I mean, just when you have film on guys that get targeted a lot and have a lot of tape, then obviously you can see what their skill sets are. But I mean, 2x2, 3x1, we're going to go out there and play coverage and defend it. And if we don't have specific film on certain players, it's just fit the scheme and play your technique.
What's the one thing your defense needs to focus on for this week?
I think doing a great job stopping the run, get off the field on third down, and then try to limit their ability to push the ball down the field for chunk gains in the passing game.
So what's your thoughts on why Jacob Rodriguez should be considered for the Heisman?
Well, I would just say this. Jacob is a heck of a football player for us. He does a great job at inside linebacker. He makes a ton of plays. He fits the defense at a really high rate in terms of assignment and technique. He's a tremendous leader, high character. You could not want or wish for anything better from a coaching standpoint in terms of working with a young man. Just a pleasure to coach, and really glad he's on our team. He's doing a great job, making a lot of plays.
Coach, I'm curious from your perspective, what does Lee mean to this defense in terms of an impact on opposing offenses?
Lee's doing a great job for us. He is a big physical guy, very athletic. At the point of attack, he's doing a great job of taking on double teams, being disruptive. He's doing a nice job pressuring the quarterback and collapsing the pocket up the middle. Really proud of him in the run game and the passing game. He's a consistent player, and kind of going back to Jacob, the guys at the second level are benefiting from a guy like Lee clogging up the middle. There's times where he gets singled and he can make some plays. There's sometimes where he gets double teamed, and maybe his ability to make a play or make a tackle is limited because of that, but he's freeing up guys behind him to fit a gap and make a play, and he's doing a great job. His leadership has been outstanding. His work ethic has been phenomenal, and just really looking forward to a great game out of him this week.
Coach, even though this is your first year here, obviously Senior Day is on this coming Saturday. How much has this group of seniors meant to you this year in your first year, and how excited are you to see them be celebrated in the last home game?
They've been tremendous. The leadership from the group has been outstanding. The chemistry in terms of their ability with this year's team to bond together, whether they were guys that had been at Texas Tech previously or are new to Texas Tech, this year as the first time they've been here. This team is just really close. They're really they love ball. They love playing with each other. They love playing hard for one another. I think there's a defining characteristic of selflessness in how they play, and that shows up in how they prepare each week. And it's be a special day for them on Senior Day, and looking forward to them coming out and playing really hard and really well.
What have you seen from Amir Boyd's development to warrant the playing time he's had over the past 2 games?
He's playing at a really high level. He's continuing to get better each and every day in practice. He's being more consistent. He's challenging routes and coverage. He's executing his assignment at a high rate, and he's making plays on game day. So he's a guy that's definitely come on as the season has gone on. And, again, typically for us, I think as we go throughout a season, most of our guys continue to get better because we do a lot of the same things week to week. There's a ton of carryover, and that allows them to bank reps in practice and in games and improve their technique, their fundamentals, and read and react quickly. And I think that's part of what you're seeing with his play right now.
At the beginning of the season, Coach Fitch said from 1 to 8 on the defensive line rotation, he felt comfortable with all those guys. What have you seen from the guys that don't get as many reps but are still rotating in?
That when they come in, they're doing some really good things. There's not a much of a drop off, and again, I think that's a testament to their work ethic and their preparation each week and how they're continuing to grow fundamentally.
Coach, say last week had an extra amount of extracurricular activities from outside of the facility. It crescendoed all week with first college football playoff ranking, top 10 matchup, big win, meant a lot for the team going for Big 12 standings. What tool do you use to keep that energy this week so that it doesn't end with Saturday's game?
I think our guys, it's a player-led team, and they're into it every week. There's a reason why we're in the position that we're in. It's because we're a process-driven team. They prepare every week. They study every week. They take care of their body every week. And so I think just continuing to emphasize to them the reasons why we're where we're at. And it's a one-game season every week. It's the biggest game in America for us every week because this is the game that we're playing. And I think that the maturity of our locker room and our guys understand what it takes to be successful. It's hard to win games, and every Saturday you've got to go out there and perform your very best, and to do that you've got to prepare. So I expect our guys to continue doing this week what they've done each and every week, which is be process mindset and prepare to play a really good game on Saturday against a quality opponent.
And speaking of your opponent this weekend, 1-5 conference record doesn't generally get people excited, but what's deceiving about that 1-5 record from what you've seen from UCF?
I see them doing a lot of really good things. They're well coached. I like the scheme that they run. They create issues for you with matchups on the perimeter. Their offensive line's doing a nice job in the run game and in the passing game. They played a lot of guys. They played a lot of quarterbacks. They played a lot of guys on the perimeter. They've played a couple guys at running back. They've got skill. They've got speed. So it'll be a test for us just like it is every week. And I think sometimes you can easily lose sight of the fact that every week winning a ball game is a difficult thing to do. And there's a fine line between success and failure, and you've got to be on it every week. And that's what our guys, I think, have, that sense of urgency to understand that they've got to prepare to be the very best in order to win, and this week will be no different.
Any others? Coach, the term the defense plays fast is kind of hard to quantify, but when you see it, this team seems to play fast. What has allowed this defense to do that?
I think when you can not have a lot of doubt as far as what you're doing, then you don't have to focus on, thinking about your assignment or where you get lined up or where your eyes need to be. You can just go out and you can play because you know what you're doing. And then if you're able to do that, then I think as you prepare throughout the week, then the majority of the time that you spend in meetings is not going over, hey, this is your technique, this is your fundamentals, remember your assignment, but more you're focused on what's the opponent doing, what are the indicators pre-snap that help you read and react to things quickly, what do they like to do in certain situations based on the film that we've studied. And when you do those things, I think you play with a lot of confidence. It's a real confidence, and I think that's what you see with our guys right now on game days. They have a real confidence. It's not a fake confidence. It's a confidence that they've earned through preparation and hard work, and it allows them to go out and play with great leverage, play with great technique, play with great fundamentals, and really run to the ball at a high rate.
Coach, Joey was talking about Cole's, flu game. Can you, elaborate in how impressed you were how he played this past weekend? Yeah,
I think he had a little bug that he got on Thursday night heading into Friday morning. Didn't feel great. And, we took care of him. The training staff did a great job getting him hydrated, and he slept a lot on Friday and Friday night and came out. And, a guy like him, I wasn't surprised. I mean, he's a pro at everything he does. He's got a ton of experience. He's got a mastery of what we're doing in terms of assignment and technique. And, missing didn't practice a lot on Friday, but that did not phase me in terms of being worried about his ability to be prepared. I thought he would come out and perform well, and he did. And it's just a credit to his toughness, physical toughness, with the sickness that he had, and then just his preparation and maturity each and every week.
I know you've got other things in front of you, but was there a moment this past week, maybe after the game, maybe during the week, that you'll remember, what I'm saying? Because that was a pretty incredible week overall for the history of Texas Tech football. Is there a moment like when you were walking off the field, something that just, clicked, that you're like, I'm going to remember this forever type thing?
I wouldn't single out a specific moment. I think coming off the field with the victory, right after the game concluded, I think probably the thing that struck me was just how our team played really well together. Offense, defense, kicking game. We complemented each other. We played really hard. When we had some moments of adversity in the game, we weren't fazed by it. And I think as a coach, you're really proud when you can have that feeling. All right, appreciate it.
Coach, how does Barron's lack of mobility Eligibility change the way you call a game?
I think the good thing is that was really never his, best redeeming quality, I guess, would be his running ability. So when we designed the offense around him, it wasn't like we were planning on doing a ton of quarterback run game and all that. Obviously something that I keep in the back of my mind and trying to protect him out there a little bit and try to take some hits off of him. But I do think he's mobile enough. To still go operate the offense at a high level without having to change just too much of what the base offense is.
Great things happen when your running backs get the ball in space. How do you leverage Jacoby and Cam better?
In terms of leveraging them better and getting them more opportunities in space. I think just finding creative ways to get them matchups. I think those guys do a great job when we do get the ball in space to them, and they are a mismatch to most linebackers, and just throughout the game plan process, making sure that we're conscious of how many touches we have scripted for those guys.
Darren on Saturday talked about the importance of being a game manager. How can you help him be a better game manager?
I think just with just every time he steps on the field and every time he's in the meeting room, those are just coachable moments. Like the couple of the sacks that he took on Saturday, had great opportunities where maybe he should have just thrown the ball away. And like Coach McGuire said, in his post-game press conference, we have the luxury of having a really good defense where there's not a ton of pressure on 3rd and 12. If we don't convert, it's okay that we punt the football away. You don't have to take a big 15-yard sack. We can kind of live to play another down. And so just kind of getting that through to him and that message to him every time that I'm coaching him. And that's the cool thing about football. Even though he's played so many games and has so much experience, there's still so much to learn, at all times. And so, all those guys are still working and trying to get better at everything that they do.
Coach, can you break down that long run by Jacoby, the toss where the motion didn't, kind of set that up, the blocking there and all that?
Yeah, so we were in a condensed set. We felt like it gave us pretty good leverage, and we motioned Coy across and ran, what's basically called a toss crack scheme. So John Carlos did a great job blocking down on the defensive end. Caleb Douglas actually had a huge block. He was blocking a 245-pound linebacker and did a phenomenal job on the perimeter. Coy ended up kicking out the corner. We had Jacob Pond up on the safety, and you watch the play. You actually get the backside. Davion Carter's like 30 yards down the field, blocking a safety on the backside. And so, we were able to get really good hats at the point of contact and get Jack in space. And so he did a great job pressing it, hitting the hole exactly like we want to. And that's a nice compliment. The bread and butter of the offense is the inside zone and counter stuff, that you see, the majority of. But having a way to get the ball on the perimeter has been a good kind of compliment, for the run game. And I think it fits those two running backs really well. They run it at a high level.
Speaking of explosive plays, y'all have consistently produced explosive plays, all season. What all has gone into that?
Yeah, I think one, our players, they do a good job making the plays when they're there. When they have one-on-one opportunities, you get Reggie Virgil on the little double move, right before half. He makes the, Barron makes the throw, Reggie makes the catch. And so I think the guys have done a great job executing what we're asking them to do and making the plays when they're there. And then I think, we got a really good coaching staff that puts those guys in positions. I think all of our assistant coaches, the game plan process is a very collaborative thing. And we've got some creative minds that are able to kind of move the puzzle pieces around. Now we got to figure out a way when we have those explosives to put it in the end zone and keep Stone on the sideline this week.
That was my next question. Also
Right.
Consistently struggled in the red zone,
Yep.
especially in Big 12 play. What's going into that, and how can you fix that?
Yeah, I think it's just everybody's got to do your job. I think when we get down there a little bit, maybe guys start pressing to try to do too much instead of just kind of just do the routine things, make the right reads. Block your guy, run the right route at the right depth, those kind of things. And then too, just as a play caller, making sure that we're putting the ball in the right guy's hands in the right situation. So I think I can be better in that regard as well.
Back on the running backs for a moment. Regarding your usage of Jacoby and Cam, has it evolved at all over the course of the season, or in the way you use them situations, whatever. Has it evolved at all over the course of the season, or has it kind of played out the way you expected it to at the end of August?
I think now that Jack is feeling, back to being pretty close to 100% with that ankle sprain that he was dealing with, I truly feel like we do have two number one backs. I think both those guys are highly capable of doing everything that we ask and have done it at a really high level. And so I think the rotation becomes more of, who needs a blow, is somebody, is Cam, he's running the ball really well, or Jack's making big plays and kind of riding the hot hand a little bit more so than one guy being, way better at one thing or the other thing. I think they've kind of both shown to be complete backs. Even, like I think Jacoby later in the game had a couple of really good blitz pickup reps that I was really proud of him to see. And so I think those guys are continuing to hone in on their craft and kind of maybe sharpen the areas where they were a little bit weak in the beginning of the season. So I think Coach Garrett's doing a great job with that room, and I think both those guys are playing at an extremely high level.
The wide receivers had some great plays this past week, but something that Coach McGuire pointed out after the game was some of the drops. You saw that against Oklahoma State a little bit too on some open touchdowns. What do you think has kind of led to that, and what do you need to improve on in that area?
Yeah, I think a lot of that just goes back to fundamentals. To be honest, I think maybe getting a little too excited and thinking about the yards after the catch or getting their eyes upfield to try to set up that next move. I think that's where you've seen this year most of the drops come from. And so just going back to day one fundamentals of really focusing and catching the ball with your eyes, and you can't make the move. You can't make the move on the safety, until you catch the football. And so, just trusting the fundamentals, trusting what Coach Juice is, teaching them to do, and not trying to do too much until they have the ball in their hand.
And then, with 2 games left in the season, you have further goals with this team that all of you guys want to accomplish. But what are the biggest things that you guys want to improve upon before you end this regular season and try to make a run?
Yeah, I think definitely the red zone execution and finishing drives is the biggest thing for me. I think you look at the BYU game for the most part. Throughout the game there were some maybe a driver here or there, the end of the game, the 4-minute situations when you're trying to run the football. But overall, I felt like we moved the ball pretty well in between the 25s, and we got down to the red zone, and we had to, settle for 5 field goals. And so, you look at the final score, and it could have been, a lot worse if we would have executed at a higher level. I mean, they did a great job on defense, too. That's a high-quality football team, and they do a good job. So credit to them. But I think we've just got to be better at finishing drives in the end zone, the execution, the game plan, play calling, all those things have got to be better, these last couple weeks. So hoping to see some growth there, and as we get into the postseason.
Since the Kansas game, you guys have kind of struggled on the opening drive, and then with ASU and Kansas State, just first quarter in general. What do you feel like the root of that has been? I'm not really sure. I feel pretty good about the game plan, and feel like the guys have a good grasp of what we want to open with and get rolling. And like even the Kansas State game, I think we started off pretty hot with a couple first downs. Maybe self-inflicted wounds like this past week. We start off with the false start, and you're sitting at first and 15 against a really good defense. And so I think getting behind the chains because of penalties, and maybe I need to do a better job calming the guys down early. Maybe they get a little excited out there early in the game. So, but I think if we can settle down and everybody just does their job and do what they're coached to do and execute the game plan at a high level, we got good enough players where we're pretty good at moving the football. So I think that's got to be the focus early in the game, and not let the emotions of the game get too high for us. Barron kind of mentioned that the first down offense was a little bit of a struggle in terms of maybe you need to have a positive play. You can't have a false start. You can't have a 0-yard run.
Yeah.
Again, kind of what do you see the root of that being?
Yeah, I think, to that point, there were some times, too, like Jacoby's run with, that 45-yarder was on first down. I think we were a little hit or miss. Something to look back at is play calling and execution kind of probably, when you have issues like that, usually there's a lot that go into that, not necessarily just one thing that you can pinpoint. So kind of looking at everything in a whole and seeing where we can be better there.
And then if either of these
last two games go any way that Oklahoma State or some of the earlier season games go, do you plan on taking Morton out, or do you want him to continue to build that chemistry going into Big 12s and possibly playoffs?
It's hard to say. It's one of those things, you can't really you can't really go into a game, expecting for that to happen. So, we'll go into this, and UCF is a good team. They're playing good on defense. And so, we'll have to have a great game plan just like we do every week, and those guys are going to have to go out and execute at a high level, and we'll kind of see what happens after that.
Coach, fair to say that while last week for the exterior was a phenomenal week, how much does it help to keep the energy up and the focus this week that the offense didn't perform to what they are capable of against BYU?
Yeah, I think that's when you look at it, it is a great win and all of those things. But I think that's probably the exciting piece of it for me as a coach is, we have the excitement of the win. You have the week leading up to it, all of those kind of things. And it was a big win. And that's at the end of the day, that's what we were trying to do and trying to accomplish. But we were able to coach those guys hard because we left a lot of meat out on the bone. And I think too, those guys see, if we just do our job, a little bit better, in these 4 or 5 plays, it could have been a really special day offensively. And so against a good team. And so I think, they see the potential, but at the end of the day, that doesn't mean much. We got to go out there and execute at a higher level. And so that'll be the focus moving forward for sure.
Are the drops getting contagious?
I don't think so. I think it's been kind of spotty here or there, where it's been, but I wouldn't say it's getting contagious now.
And you've got UCF on tap this week. 1-5 conference record doesn't inspire a lot of worry. What about that is misleading?
Man, I think this is a really you watch their defense. I mean, this is a really talented defensive line. They've got 2 defensive ends that can really get after the passer and affect the game. I think their interior is good. They had a safety who had 3 interceptions last week, so kind of ball hawking guy who eyes in the backfield and is pretty instinctive back there. So I think defensively, and you look at the statistics, they're in the top 30 in most of the defensive categories. So we'll have our work cut out for us. It's a good defensive unit. Coach Grinch does a great job on defense. And so, we'll have to show up and play for sure. It's it could be very misleading, looking at the record, but I think they're playing good football on the defensive side.
Back to Barron, he mentioned it, the game management part of it. How do you practice and tell somebody to just throw the ball away? And Joey mentioned it as well. Here, there's been a lot of the quarterbacks have had to extend plays. How do you teach that this far along with a quarterback like that?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's almost impossible to simulate in practice because your scout team defensive line is one, they're taught to stay away from the quarterback. We're trying to keep that guy healthy. But 2, they're not really creating as much of a pass rush as you would feel in the game. And so I think a lot of it is just more of an awareness of him and his mind than it is necessarily actually like practicing those situations. And 2, I can be good, throughout the game, just the communication piece with him, just giving him those reminders. So now we can, talk to those guys in between plays. So just kind of constantly reminding him about some of those, game management pieces. Hey, like the first red zone trip, third and 8, and we're on the 15-yard line, 16-yard line, like we can't take a sack there and potentially, get out of field goal range. So just different things like that, just reminders throughout the game. I can be better with my communication.
Is it hard for you too, though? I mean, to tell a quarterback to throw away as a former quarterback?
Yeah, for sure. There's a fine line. There's a fine line of where you don't want to overcoach those guys to where they're out there playing timid or playing soft, and I think that's one of Barron's best traits is the kid is incredibly competitive, and he's a gunslinger. So you don't want to take that away from him either. So just trying to find that perfect balance of coaching him the right way, where he is smart, but he doesn't lose that edge, and kind of what makes him special.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.